Pieter Bruegel, a timeless master's painted stories, the voice of an era. Let's momentarily escape the complexities of modern life and journey to a rural village in the 16th century Netherlands. Today we meet the painter Pieter Bruegel. He was a master of the Northern Renaissance, often called peasant Bruegel. His paintings are loud, bustling, and sometimes grotesque, yet they capture the depth of the human condition, offering us a space for contemplation. For the next 15 minutes, we will delve deeply into his life and art. The Low Countries, or Flanders, where Bruegel lived during the mid-16th century, were facing a turbulent period. The region was under the powerful rule of the Habsburg monarchy, and the reigns of Emperor Charles V and his son Philip II caused extreme political tension. In particular, the repressive rule of Spain suppressed the freedom and faith of the local people. The major movement of this time was the Reformation. The new faith, Protestantism, spreading under the influence of Luther and Calvin, clashed continually with the Catholic rule of Spain, making the whole society unstable. Amidst this chaos, Bruegel maintained a neutral artistic perspective, focusing on capturing the fundamental nature of humanity without siding with any political faction. The scenes of festivity and hardship in his paintings reflect the suffocating daily lives of the common people. Meanwhile, Antwerp, where Bruegel worked, flourished as Europe's largest trade center. This commercial city generated new wealth, ushering in a golden age of culture and art. But it also intensified the gap between classes and social injustice. Bruegel's paintings depict this era's anxiety. For example, the census at Bethlehem appears to be a biblical story, but it actually subtly portrays the harsh taxation under Spanish rule and the suffering of the populace. In this painting, Bruegel successfully conveys a dual message that is a satirical denouncement of the contemporary oppressed reality through a biblical setting. His art was a clear voice of accusation against the times for the intellectuals and patrons of the day. The artist's journey. Records about Bruegel's early life are scarce. He officially began his career in 1551, when he was registered as a master in the Painters' Guild in Antwerp, a center of Northern European art. His master was Pieter Bruegel van Elst, a contemporary master in Antwerp. Bruegel learned not only painting but also tapestry design in his master's workshop, acquiring refined compositional skills. Interestingly, though, Bruegel chose to look at the world through his own unique lens, instead of imitating the Italian Renaissance style his master pursued. In the early 1550s, Bruegel embarked on the Italian journey, the rite of passage for young artists. Although he collaborated with famous painters in Rome, what truly influenced his art was not the classical beauty of Italy. It was the immense and overwhelming scenery of the Alps that he encountered while traversing the mountains. This experience profoundly inspired his later landscapes. A pantheistic worldview in which human life is part of majestic nature took root in his mind. From this point on, Bruegel established a distinctive composition where human activities are scaled down and placed within a vast landscape. Look at landscape with the Fall of Icarus. While an ordinary farmer in the center of the canvas plows his field, the mythical hero Icarus is barely visible, sinking into the sea in the corner of the painting. This unique perspective of Bruegel, where even a heroic tragedy is overshadowed by the triviality of daily life, was perfected at this time. Through this work, Bruegel presents a sober Northern European philosophy, suggesting that even grand mythological events ultimately become meaningless before the cycle of nature and the routine of life. His gaze was always fixed on the ordinary life rooted on the ground, not the heavens. This perspective directly led to the monumental work The Tower of Babel. He recreated the biblical story of human arrogance and challenge to God in the setting of a Flemish harbor city. The structure of the tower, though magnificent, looks somehow skewed, hinting at the instability of human civilization and the chaos that is soon to follow. This work is not just a depiction of the Bible, but a cold warning against the vanity of the contemporary Habsburg Empire and the tragedy it would bring about. Life in Antwerp and Brussels. After returning from Italy, Bruegel settled in Antwerp and primarily designed prints for the print publisher Hieronymus Koch. During this period, he gained great popularity with his satirical engravings, which continued the grotesque style of Hieronymus Bosch. Notably, his prints on themes like the 7 deadly sins or virtues sharply criticized the moral decay of contemporary society through complex and fantastical imagery. Engravings became an important medium for quickly disseminating his ideas and satirical spirit to the public. Then, in 1563, Bruegel moved to Brussels. This move marked a significant turning point in his artistic career. That year, he married Mayken Coquet, the daughter of his master Pieter Coquet van Aelst. This couple had two sons, Pieter Bruegel the Younger and Jan Bruegel the Elder, who would also become famous painters, establishing the origin of a prominent family of artists in Northern European art history. After moving to Brussels, he focused more on painting than on printmaking. During this period, the figures in his paintings grew larger, and the compositions evolved into a more monumental style. The great series produced in 1565, The Seasons, marks the culmination of this period. This series was created for a patron consisting of 6 panels, symbolizing the year and capturing the peasants' labor and festivities within a majestic natural landscape. Works like The Hunters in the Snow, The Hay Harvest, and The Harvesters show that human life is integrated into the cycle of nature. The peasants in his paintings continue their lives simply but persistently in the face of the eternal recurrence of the seasons. Through these series, Bruegel transcended the boundaries of mere landscape painting, evolving into a lyrical painter who incorporated the philosophy of life. The Hunters in the Snow, in particular, starkly contrasts the harsh solemnity of winter, seen through the gray sky and bare trees, with the determination of humans trying to survive within it. Analysis of works and worldview. Although Bruegel was called Peasant Bruegel, he was actually an intellectual who interacted with contemporary scholars and thinkers. The reason he painted the lives of peasants was not simply to document rural scenes, but to capture the universal truth of humanity through their lives. This was the result of observing the most genuine cross-section of humanity away from the heroic themes or religious dogmas popular in Italy at the time. Look at the peasant dance or the peasant wedding. In the rough and sometimes comical appearances of the peasants, he found the innate primal vitality and desire of human nature. His paintings are often filled with satire and humor. Netherlandish Proverbs illustrates over 100 contemporary proverbs in a bizarre arrangement on a single canvas, compiling all the foolishness and human weaknesses of the world into a massive encyclopedia. This was an extreme amplification of the tradition of visualizing proverbs to provide moral instruction, exposing the fundamental folly of people living in a confusing age. Even in religious themes, Bruegel did not adhere to tradition. He brought biblical figures into his own time and his homeland, mingling them with ordinary people. In the Procession to Calvary, the figure of Jesus bearing the cross is barely discernible, hidden within the vast crowd. People are preoccupied with their daily routines, failing to recognize the Savior of humanity. Bruegel subtly critiques human indifference and moral sloth through this. By treating such an important religious event as background, Bruegel was already addressing the modern themes of the significance of the ordinary and the alienation of human existence in the 16th century. Furthermore, through satirical paintings like The Land of Cockaigne, he humorously offered a moral warning about human idleness and gluttony. Bruegel was a pioneer who elevated the landscape from mere background to the protagonist of the painting. Let's contemplate the Hunters in the Snow once more. The cold air and quiet silence fill the canvas, and the figures of skaters on the frozen pond and exhausted hunters look as vivid as a snapshot. This painting is not just a winter scene, but a lyrical poem born of the harmony between humans and nature and the hardship of life. Bruegel succeeded in capturing human emotion and the philosophy of life through landscape, making a significant mark on the subsequent history of Western art. Enduring legacy and conclusion. In 1569, Pieter Bruegel died in Brussels in his mid-40s, bringing his short life to an end. His later works contained even deeper human anguish and reflection. The Parable of the Blind, where a group of blind men are shown stumbling while leading each other, satirically represents the era's blind faith and the folly of following inept leaders. Nevertheless, his art was passed down to his two sons, Pieter Bruegel the Younger and Jan Bruegel the Elder, who continued the family's artistic renown. Pieter the Younger was particularly skilled at copying and reinterpreting his father's genre scenes, while Jan the Elder gained great fame for his precise and beautiful still lifes and landscapes, earning him the nickname Flower Bruegel. Bruegel was truly a pioneer who established the genre of genre painting. His art had a profound influence on Flemish Baroque painters like Rubens and the everyday life paintings of the Dutch Golden Age in the 17th century. Countless later artists strove to emulate Bruegel's peasant perspective, to elevate the value of ordinary life into art. Bruegel is one of the first painters to elevate the lives of ordinary people themselves, rather than history or mythology, to the subject of art. Looking closely at Bruegel's paintings feels like watching a stage play featuring hundreds of actors. All these small movements converge to form the great narrative of human existence. He tells us that in the great vortex of history, the story of heroes may not be what truly matters. What is eternal is the most ordinary and humble life of us all, that plows the fields, marries dances, and eventually meets death every day. May Bruegel's quiet yet bustling painted stories leave a subtle resonance in your day. We hope you enjoyed this moment of peaceful contemplation away from the complexities of the world. Thank you.